Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloudbase Mayhem. Just about ready to get on a plane, get away from this house build for a few weeks, and go cover the Red Bull X-Alps. Prologue starts on the 8th. Race starts on the 11th. This is going to be a hoot. And some really cool technology for me to be going live to you from the air, which will be fun. So stay tuned for that, and hope you'll all dial in the race. This is going to be cool. As always, will depend on the weather. See how fast these guys can do it in. But so I'll be doing that, and this episode is all about the Alps as well, but from a totally different perspective. We've got Honza and his son Martin on the show again. I just love these. It's incredible what these guys are doing. I don't know anybody doing anything to this extent with bivy flying and tandem flying with their son or daughter. They have chosen a really cool style to do these. They decide on a mission and they give it 3 attempts. And on this 3rd attempt from Annecy to, I believe the original goal was to Zermatt, but they had such great weather, they were able to carry on and get all the way to Davos. This went down last summer. They've done a trip every year of Martin's life since he was 8. He is now 14. And they got shut down, obviously, with their plans to go into Europe during COVID, but they still went up into the Sierras and did it on skis and went up into kind of Whitney Portal, Williams zone, the highest mountains in the Sierras, and had a really cool mission out there. Yeah, these are just precious. It's so cool hearing Honza's perspective with his son and his son's perspective with dad, and those guys just having these really cool adventures. I'm incredibly inspired by these. I can't wait to start doing this with Fallon. She's 5, and I think we'll be following in these guys' footsteps here very shortly. Before we get into the show, I've got some Patagonia t-shirts left. They are no longer allowing us to logo Patagonia t-shirts, so if you want one of those with the Cloudbase Mayhem logo and what do we say on there? Talk less, fly more. But they're a lot of fun, and they're a great product. And so check out our store on cloudbasemayhem.com and grab one of those, because once these are gone, we won't be able to replace them. Still got tons of the great recap hats with all the Cloudbase Mayhem logos and all the different various colors and ways. They're beautiful. So check those out. Thanks as always for your support of the show. Just blows me away that we can keep doing this as we approach 200 and possibly another book. I'll be talking to Ed and Hugh when I'm over in the Alps about that. The first one was based on the first 100 shows, and we've already done another 100. So this has been a blast. Keep doing it. Can't believe we've been doing this for almost 10 years now. And thank you all. We've also got quite a bit of bonus stuff in the pipeline. I've been recording those and haven't released one in a while, so we've got some of those coming up. But in the meantime, please enjoy this very fun talk with Honza and his son Martin. Cheers. Honza and Martin, welcome back to the Mayhem. We've got a lot to talk about. Just as a refresher for the listeners, Honza Rejmanek has done the X-Alps 5 times, and he retired after the 2015 race from that, but has been doing these amazing vol-bivies with his son, Martin, who's here with us. And we had you guys on the show back, I think the last one was right when COVID hit. So it was spring 2020. It was a few years ago now. And I know that shook up plans for your bivy that summer. But we're going to be talking about this amazing bivy you guys did last year from Annecy to Davos, kind of the reverse of the route Honza, you and I flew back in 2015. So very, very cool. Obviously you had some great weather, and we'll dive into that. But you guys, what I think we should do to start off with is just recap what's happened since the 2020 planned vol-biv in the Alps that didn't go down because of COVID, and get us up to speed, not all the way to this last bivy last summer, but what did you do instead, and what have you been up to with the fly camping?
Well, Gavin, thanks for having us on again.
Yep.
The summer of 2020, spring and summer of 2020 were mostly
At home. Yeah.
backpacking.
Yeah. A lot of
We did
backpacking.
about
Got about 35 days in. Yeah.
35 days of just being
Whoa,
in the
really?
wilderness. Yeah,
Yeah.
the longest being an 11-day trip with
Yeah. My
Martin's
little
little.
brother and my grandma.
Wow. Was that down in Chile or was that here? Or did you just
No,
stay at
because it was
home?
all COVID, so we couldn't be down in Chile. It was just in the
Right.
Sierras
In the
by
Sierras and
the.
then had a good one in the Trinities as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, so a lot of backpacking, and
So
then
COVID was good for being outdoors.
Yeah.
yes. And then the spring of 21, Martin, you want to tell?
Yeah, we went in the Owens Valley, my dad and I. We went on like sky camping but with cross country skis. So you figured out how to mount cross country skis to a paraglider kind of underneath us.
Yeah.
And
Well, Martin would hold them
yeah, it was
for
holding for
launch,
takeoff and landing.
and then
And
I would
then
just dangle them on some
yeah.
paraglider line underneath us for the flight.
Yeah.
I saw pictures of this. It was
Yeah.
hysterical. It's kind of like what Duragati's doing in Pakistan. It was,
Yeah, but he's putting them on and off in the air.
I
That's another
know, pretty
level.
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, that's next level.
Yeah. And then we entered there, we just kind of flew around, did
We
some
flew
sky
around from
camping.
Onions.
Yeah.
It was Onion Valley up to a valley that's just north of Mount Williamson. There,
Yeah.
it's all in the kind of the Mount Whitney area of the Owens on the Sierra side, and it was a low snow year. So even though it was just the end of March, we had very little snow. But up at 10,000 feet, we kind of did a you know da slight downwind uphill landing in a snow patch, just plowed it in,
Yeah.
and then found a really nice camp spot
Yeah.
nearby there. And what did we have for dinner?
Steak. We flew up a steak and some cheese and yeah.
Yeah.
Honza, back from the Sun Valley days. I still hear about that around here. You'd go fly
Yeah.
camping with a ribeye.
Yeah. So
Yep.
always for the first night, yes, if
Yep.
possible. And then we cross country skied up the next morning for like
Yeah.
500 meters, and then launched and ended up flying back to the car because it was we were going to fly towards Whitney, but conditions weren't that
Yeah.
great, and we decided we'd better get back to the vehicle.
In style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what was then we got to go back to the Alps that
Hey,
summer
hang
of
on
21.
before you
Yeah.
go back to the Alps, Hansa. You just had a little bivy trip where I was hoping to join you. I didn't get to, but that same peak that you just spent the night last weekend on Williamson. I'd be curious that what was this one you did with Martin was the end of March. You just did this one the first week of May. What were the snow level differences like? Is the Sierras have gotten a epic historical snowpack. Was it totally different?
Totally different. There's 300% snow they're saying
Yeah.
right now. So
Jeez.
this one, all the road to up Whitney Portal. As soon as you hit the mountains, that was closed. Obviously, the one into Horseshoe Meadows was closed, but it was there were a lot of people doing backcountry skiing and split snowboard stuff. It was the weekend. This was just before the start of May, so it was like the last days of April before you need any permits in that area, or there's
Mm.
no quotas. So there were a lot of people out and about. But yeah, just the hiked up the first zigzag of the Whitney Portal Road, and uh, launched around 1 o'clock. And thermals were much stronger on the out on the knolls rather than as you. It was kind of choose your own thermal strengths.
Yeah.
The more you would move deeper in onto the snowy terrain, the weaker the lift got because there was just so much more terrain covered with snow. Um,
Wow.
and top of lift was around 13 grand, around the 4,000 meter mark. I was able to fly over to Mount Williamson, but not land at the top. There's a perfect saddle near the top, which was kind of the dream to land up in there. But after several attempts, just had to side hill it, but had that was only an hour and a half flight getting there, landing it, and then hiked up to the top, checked out the view from the top, spent the night in the saddle at 14 grand, and the next morning was a little tricky because there was a southwest wind. The first day was great because there was light east, almost no wind at all, and then there was a bit of a southwest. So the saddle itself was a little bit in the lee. I was debating whether to wait for thermals to turn on or whether to just get off while I could, and decided to get off while I could. But that was already about 9:50, and to my surprise, thermals were on it before 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So it was,
Spring.
Yeah, flew all the way back to Waltz launch and then back towards Whitney. Got to check out the Whitney Portal Valley, really nice. Just got deep in there and could fly right back out and then landed by the car. It was kind of a really quick project because I had to get back home, but it was a beautiful time.
Must have been amazing to see those maps. I've seen all these satellite images and stuff. They've done all those flyovers to try to get a gauge of how much water is going to be coming down now. And it's amazing. That's so, I mean, I grew
Yeah,
up
they
in
said there's
Tahoe. It reminds me of 80. The last
Yeah.
big winter was 1980. It reminds me of that.
Yeah.
They said there's 30 million acre feet in snow, snow melt. I
Jeez.
mean, that's double the Colorado River allotment. The water rights for Colorado River, 15 million acre feet. So this is an
Yeah.
insane amount of snow that's up there. Yeah.
Wow, special. Okay, so a little distraction there, but that was a good mission. But then the next year, so you weren't able to go to the Alps COVID year one, and then the next year you did or you didn't?
21
We did, yeah.
21 we did,
Okay.
and that was our second attempt.
From Annecy to Zermatt. And it was a good one. We got further than the first time, but still not to Zermatt, and we slept quite a bit more. We were thinking that maybe 2 more days we could have gotten there, but yeah.
Yeah, with this, we had a good start. We had our best start of all. We got to the end of the RV's chain that first day. But
And where did you
Cloudbase,
start? Did you start at Montmin or
no,
Plan Fay or
let's see.
At Annecy at
No, the what's the higher one up at
the
the
higher one's
Col de
Montmin?
Forclaz?
Cloudbase, no,
Col de Forclaz.
Cloudbase.
You go, just get to Col de Forclaz and then you go up a little ways. Is that one called Moma?
Yeah, Momo. Yeah, that's below Tournette.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was that one.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got to the ARV the first day?
And
The
end of
end
the
of it?
RV is the first day.
Yeah, that was our best day. out of all.
Best first day. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
really good.
really-
Really feeling pretty optimistic about it. Unfortunately, the forecast was not too good.
Yeah.
So the next day, so that evening, even into that evening, we hiked over the RVs through Cloudbase.
That was a scary experience because you can't see steps in front of you due to the
Whoa.
fog, but it was
Whoa.
interesting.
And then and then we
And the
also hiked.
trail was slightly non-existent, so
Yeah, it was kind of a sketchy hike over, and I think
Yeah.
we hiked till almost 10 that evening to
Yeah.
find a flat camp spot.
Was this June? Because you're usually doing this right around the race, right? Or no, actually it's after now. 'Cause the race is
that
in
one was
June.
during the race.
That
That
was
one
in-
we
Oh,
ended
okay.
up flying with one of the X-Alps pilots for a few minutes.
Did
Oh,
we on
cool.
that one?
Yeah, we did. It was like the last day, and it was one of the French guys, like not the one right
What?
behind Maurer, but the one after.
But was that race? Or was
It
that
was that one.
Was that one? Okay. Anyway, yeah, because that would have been
Cool.
21. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we barely, like, there was one point where we intersected with them, but kind of long story short, once we got had that really good flight, the next day was just 2 sled rides and a lot of hiking. Got into
Yeah.
the Chamonix Valley.
Hiked all the way through the Chamonix Valley.
Day 3, we hiked all the way through the Chamonix Valley, all the way
That
up to
was
Col de
nice.
Balme.
Yeah, but day 3 was nice because we got to stop and talk with
Yeah, the folks from
Owners.
owners of Absolute Chamonix, the tandem business.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they had invited me to their house in back in the '09 X-Alps.
wow, cool.
Yeah, so kind of a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
Hey, just to go off on an adjunct here real quick. What are you carrying now? Because I remember the last time, Martin, you were really small and you're bigger now, and Dad was carrying most stuff. You had your little kind of day pack, but how does it divide up now? And what are you in 21? If you were doing this around the same time as the X-Alps was going on, the weather was atrocious. Tons of overdevelopment, tons of wind.
Yeah.
I think the audience would like to know, what are you bringing? Is it full tent, or are you just bivvying in the wing, or how does it go over your gear?
So for this last year, we had, I don't know about the year before, that's kind of hard to remember, but for this last year, we had a Dyneema tent, one of those Z-Packs, ultralight 600 gram tents that uses the poles to build.
Yep.
Yep, that worked amazing. And then in there, we have the paragliders or sleeping bag. And the paraglider is still the same. It's the UP something.
The UPK23,
The
same one.
UPK23.
Yeah, the one we've had all the whole time.
And
how much is that, Honza? How much does that weigh?
That's a full weight. That's
full weight.
Yeah, that's an almost
9,
close to 8.5, 9 kilos.
Yeah.
It's a heavy one. That one's
Okay.
heavy.
Okay.
Martin's got a light harness, a thin red
Yeah.
line from the 90s. That's a 300 gram harness. And
Yeah.
then I've got the same harness I've used on all these trips, which was I used in the '07 X-Alps.
It's the one with enough space to put stuff
One I gave
underneath.
you.
No. This
Oh,
was even before that, way before that.
okay.
This is '07 X-Alps. This was we still had didn't even have a pod on it. Uh,
Oh.
yeah. Nervo's Bivouac. I think a Nervo's Bivouac it was called or something from Nervo's, but it's an '07 harness, but it's got a lot of space and it's actually not terribly heavy. I think it's in the 1.3, 1.5 kilo range, so
Yeah.
that works. Martin's
And are you
carrying all the
bringing?
food. Oh, sorry, Gavin.
Okay, are you bringing any? Are you bringing crampons, ice axe, that kind of thing, or are you just
So
avoiding that kind of
that
terrain?
sometimes we do.
We
Sometimes
didn't back
depends on
in.
how early we do it. If we do it
Okay.
like June, then we probably bring them. We've never had to really use them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did it on one trip and we
So we
decided not to.
definitely phased out the ice axe and the crampons. It's kind of a sometimes thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you carry the food, Martin?
Yep, and my clothes and all of that.
Okay.
It's getting
Gotcha.
a lot better. It's getting, yeah, with Martin
Yeah.
being able to carry more, and I'm able to fit it into one of the super backpacks that I had for one of the X Alps. So I used to be carrying a big tandem bag, and it was just overloaded. So it was
It's a huge
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
yeah. So now we split the weight. Martin's got a normal little backpacking backpack, which
Like
carries really.
40-liter
Okay.
REI. Yeah.
Okay. You can get a lot of food in that.
Yeah.
And then Hansa, what do you think your weight is now?
I think when we start out, I think it's under 25 kilos. It's getting very reasonable. It's actually like the things are carrying quite well. So there's the one place we decided we could shed weight is we still bring too much food. Like
Yeah.
it's so easy to restock on food
Sure.
that it would be worth even if we had to land in the valley one afternoon where we could have landed up high to restock, it might still be worth that extra
Yeah.
hike up rather than starting the trip, carrying. We've always had at least 5 days of food, if
Yeah.
not more. And
Or maybe, I mean, I guess if you're doing it in June, it's maybe a little early. They maybe aren't all open, but what about huts? It's pretty easy to get food from the huts too. Are you ever just stopping in a hut and having dinner there or grabbing supplies
Sometimes
there?
we are, but I know it's like if there would be a hut, we'd always stop, but it's never.
we haven't hit
It's
that many
never,
huts. The one
Yeah.
hut that we've hit, which was we'd hit twice, this guy Henry
Yeah.
at the
Called a
Col de Balme.
called a Balm.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. On the
Yeah.
back, on the back end of Chamonix.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the Chamonix. Yeah, so we passed by his hut twice, and he's always been very nice. I think he'd done a little bit of flying, and he bought and remodeled that whole
Yeah. But
hut.
yeah.
And so yeah, but otherwise, every town's got food. Every pass has got some. We're realizing it's so easy to top off on food
Yeah.
in the Alps. That's the one place to, if we wanted to get faster moving on the ground, we could cut down.
Yeah.
Just
Cut down on food.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the wing? Would you go with one of the new lightweight tandem? Aren't they making lightweight tandem wings too? I'm not much of a
They
tandem guy. I
they
don't know
they
much
are
about tandems.
some, yeah. We looked into that a little bit. UP was working on one, but then they abandoned the project. So we're a little bit of a standby on that. But as Martin gets stronger,
Yeah.
and he's got a great stamina for hiking, I think it's the we're
Less
pretty
relevant.
set right now. I think,
Yeah.
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 Cool. Okay, so keep going. So that you had the bad weather. You leave the ARV. You kind of walk through Sham. Then what?
Then it's looking like the weather's getting better, but unfortunately, it was still too windy at Col de
Yeah.
Balme when we woke up there. So
Yeah. And this
after
is still 2021, and it was early that year.
Yeah.
And so, but it was extremely stable all of that year.
Well, it was stable. It was a combination of things. It was stable and it was windy too.
Yeah.
When we were at Col de Balme, it was just it would have the wind wasn't
We weren't
allowed.
able to take off. Yeah.
Yeah, we thought of doing some kind of a wraparound, fly around, but even that it's
Yeah.
too windy for that. So we had just had a big hike day. That was by then it was day 4. Day 5 we had a decent one where we got to Verbier.
Yeah.
Side hill landed just on the hills
Yeah.
by Verbier, but then had a big hike over side hill at
Yeah.
1600 and hiked up to the summit. Well, not to quite the summit, to 2900 meters.
Yeah. That was a day.
Ooh,
And it was
that's pretty high.
yeah, and we hiked to tell the happiest pigs in the world.
Yeah, we hiked by some pigs that were up in the high Alps, just enjoying.
They had a perfect view.
Yeah.
Had they did a little shade, little
Yeah.
food, and just the most gorgeous view of the Alps. I mean, the
Yeah.
happiest
Oh, man.
happiest pigs in the world.
To be a cow or a pig in Switzerland is a-okay.
Yeah.
You know, you're living pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. And the Martin, how old are you now?
I am currently 14.
So you were 12.
That when I was 12, yeah.
Okay. And how much have you grown since the last time we had you on the show?
Oh yeah,
I'd say a
3
bit,
years
yeah.
ago.
yeah.
Fair bit. Are you as tall as your dad?
No,
quite.
definitely not. No, just past my mom a couple weeks ago. But
Oh man. Okay. So you're getting bigger. You can carry more weight. Is
yeah,
that how does that affect Honza? How does that affect the flying and are you noticing that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when we started, when he was 8, it was definitely kind of,
we're light on the tandem.
yeah. It felt like when you fly a tandem solo, it's just a little more than that. I mean, it felt like you're definitely still driving a big bus, and you had to really be aware of wind. Like you really had to respect the wind because you just didn't have that much
Right.
loading. And now it feels great. It flies.
Yeah.
We're right in a great weight range on it, and we can punch against wind if we need it. And no, it flies nice.
I mean, back then when he was 8, could you have flown just a bigger solo wing? Would that have been maybe a tool again, I'm not a tandem guy, or you just have to use a tandem wing?
No, you could have. Yeah, that would be an option if you got a big, like an extra large solo wing. It might fly nicer.
Than a tandem.
Yeah. So that would, I think, if you had really that might be a consideration once I start doing it with Tommy. Yeah, because Tommy's 6 now, so
2 more years.
2 more years will be kind of where Martin was.
Yeah.
So Martin, you've been doing this almost half your life. I just added the math there. That's pretty impressive, man. I mean, you guys have done a trip every year since you were 8.
Yeah.
Amazing. Are you going to become a pilot as well?
I hope to, yeah.
Well, you've been making little flights.
I've been making.
Yeah, he's been doing his first flights.
My longest is about 10 minutes, just soaring on the dunes. So
yeah, awesome. Pitching. Okay. So you guys make Verbier. You go for a big hike. Are you in the Verbier Valley?
We're kind of Verbier at the top station, not the very, very summit station, but there's a big place. And then so the next day we get hiking, once again too windy, so we had to do this kind of around.
We did a big around loop to try to maintain height in hopes that we'd be able to fly. Yeah. But after we realized we were forced to then go down because it was
starting to rain.
It was starting to rain, and it was one of our last days, and we didn't want to be trapped super high up in the rain. Knowing that we have a bus the next day.
Yeah, and the last day was good, but it didn't get good till pretty late in the day. Like we hiked to a great launch, and we're actually in Cloudbase waiting for things to dry out a little bit.
And so with that loop, we ended up just going super around to try to maintain height where we could have just gone down and up and saved.
So you're kind of contouring. You went out the back of Verbier on the north side. You're kind of going down the Rhone, and you're contouring. You're trying to get Zermatt.
Yeah, but we're basically at that point we're realizing it's extremely unlikely, and then so we launch kind of just above Sion and try to skirt on the south edge of that airspace. That last day we covered a fair bit of distance in about an hour and a half once we got airborne, because there's there's obviously that valley wind that's down there, and there was coupled with a westerly wind, but not too crazy, but enough to really skip along, and then topped off pretty high above Sierra, and then got a big flush all the way down to the bottom of the valley and landed by Luke, which is near, like, halfway between Sierra and Wisp or something like that. So
oh, you made it a fair distance.
Yeah, I made a fair distance. Got about another 10K over last time, but that's still far from making it. But this is definitely with a lot of ambition to come back.
Yeah,
which is what we did in this last summer in 22.
Okay, so before we get to that, what I think a lot of people, I know I am curious about it. When you guys are flying together, is it decision by Honza? Is it decision by consensus? Are you talking a lot about it? Honza, are you ever, Martin, are you ever getting kind of scared and going, okay, I'm done. I don't feel good. I'm not liking this. And then Honza, you just stick it in, or how do the decisions go down?
Well, it's definitely decision by consensus. We definitely talk about it.
Okay.
If I'm not sure, then my dad has full power because he has so much more experience than I do.
Sure.
But there were definitely one of my favorite times when I had the better idea and we ended up sticking out due to his decisions were when there was a time it was entering the Chamonix Valley.
This is the 2019, right?
Yeah, first time going Annecy to Zermatt, and the mountains did a little like curve in and then went back out kind of towards the valley. And my dad wanted to cut through it, and I was like, wait, but shouldn't we go around? We ended up cutting through and sticking out.
Yeah, yeah.
You were right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were there at,
Yeah.
2:30 p.m. on the valley floor, scratching my head, and Martin's like, "You should have just followed the terrain." Like,
You got that. That's unusual for you, Honza. Usually you're pretty patient, but you got a little impatient there and
Yeah.
started racing.
Yeah.
Martin, again, we'll get to. I know we're going to talk mostly about this last one you did because it was amazing.
Yeah.
But do you ever get scared? Are you pretty confident? Are you pretty chill in the
pretty
air?
confident,
Does it ever?
I'd say. I mean, sometimes, but there's no events that I can really think of where I was really scared.
And now, Honza, what about you? I'd be curious, all my sailing years, there's your game face and there's your real internal stuff going on, when you're in a storm, that kind of thing. I mean, I always had to act like everything was totally fine, but sometimes it wasn't. What about from your perspective? I don't want you to freak your son out, but
No.
have there been times where it's pretty spooky because you've got a passenger, or are you just not flying in those conditions?
I'm definitely trying to respect the conditions, but yeah, that's just by the sheer number of time and hours. There's bound to be a few.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind is this was back on our second one. We were trying to go Annecy to Corvara, and we'd made it, and then we had another 3 days flying around in the Dolomites, and it was getting really ripe there. It's pretty common that it starts to overdevelop, and it was just we were heading for a small landing field, and there was some wind. And speaking, we were still quite light loading, the trimmers full out, and I did. It was a bit of a zigzag to make the tight landing field, and when I zigged back into the wind, it felt like almost no penetration, a lot of sink, and basically our approach took us through two treetops into that field. Made that field really nice, but that last final zigzag was almost unnecessary. So that felt, for a moment I was like, oh, this would just be the worst, to be stuck hanging in trees on a tandem and having to explain that to local
with your
authorities.
son. Yeah, that would be a little embarrassing. It'd be hard to. You'd want to get down real quick before anybody saw you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, for conditions, for the most, I mean, that the tandem fly is really nice. It's like it's like a big, maybe B minus A plus kind of wing in its behavior. So it's got a lot of passive safety, and I would say, for the most part, we're just trying to fly smart. Some landings have been a little faster.
Yeah, that's true. That when you're about to take off or about to land, there's kind of that, oh, what if, but it's always fine.
Yeah.
They have been faster landings, but it's nothing that bad.
And do you kind of have, Honza, a hard stop? Is there a wind amount that you just say we're walking, period? I mean, obviously you've got to adjust a lot compared to your X-Alps days and what you were willing to fly in there on a totally different kind of weapon. But now, is there just a number that says no, or is it more just how things are, what you're seeing in the sky? And I mean, in other words, how much are you looking at real-time wind data and forecast versus sticking your finger up in the air?
It's a little bit of a combo, because we do have there are a lot of stations when you pull up windy. Luckily, the Alps are got quite a few stations, so it's definitely checking what maybe some of the higher stations are getting, or where some of the compressions are happening. But a lot of it is just looking at the clouds, feeling the conditions on launch. I mean, a good example is what Martin mentioned when we were at Col de Balme, and just we waited around almost half a day to see if we'd be able to fly out of there before we decided to make the hike. And I had always had Martin, you wait here, I'm going to run up to this spot and check it out. And It was one of those like, can I soar up the west side high enough to wrap around and go east? And it's like you're saying, Gavin, it's a move that could be, on a solo wing in the X-Alps, it'd be a no-brainer. It's kind of, if you were going that direction, that's what you
Yep.
would do. But with the tandem, and if you were sinking out, with the tandem, you really have to evaluate your landing areas a lot better as well.
Hmm.
Um, so it's yeah, you just give it a lot more margin,
A lot more margin.
a lot more
Okay.
margin, yeah, to keep it safe, because it's one of those things. It's obviously seen from the outside. It can be seen as a very dangerous thing to be doing with your son. So you just want to make sure you do, you know, you got to do this right. You can't get it wrong.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so you guys almost get to Visp in 21, and then was it already on the map to come back the next season? It's been kind of this
Definitely.
Annecy to Zermatt goal, correct? That's been kind of the route.
Well, we have this rule where we set a goal and then we do it 3 times, and if we can't get it in 3 times, then
Oh.
we move on because it was too hard or something along that line.
Ah. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
a personal
cool.
rule we made. Is basically
Yeah.
we're gonna try 3 attempts. If once we make a goal, we change it up, and then the new one gets 3 attempts. So it can be
Yeah.
up to 3 years trying it.
Yeah.
Until we get it. And if we're not getting it after 3 attempts, we let ourselves
Yeah.
basically choose a new one. If that,
Yeah.
but that luckily that hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
So what happens when Tomas gets to be 8? Do you do 2 a year?
Yeah, might have a good reason to go do 2 back to back.
That
Well,
sounds
but then
okay.
I'll be 16, so not
Ah,
enough
maybe you'll just be
driving
flying
Europe
your own
yet. So
glider.
yeah.
You that'd be cool. A little family
Yeah.
mission,
Yeah.
bivy. Oh, amazing. Okay, so 2022, the weather's epic, and you start again at Montmin, correct?
Yeah. So we got there at a decent time. We
Yeah.
took a bus train combo. Got there. We started out basically from Prague. Took a
Yeah.
bus to
Munich, then Geneva, then whatnot. Just
yeah, basically get to launch, and then it was a good time of day, but it was kind of a stable day. It was getting pretty hot.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those early periods in June, but no, July. This was mid-July, and it was
Yeah.
getting really hot in Europe. I think that's when
Yeah.
like England started sweltering under
Oh
40,
yeah, that was
40 C Celsius weather.
yeah, where everyone was having 40 Celsius, super hot. We were freezing up at 4,000.
But that's later.
Wow.
Yeah, that's later.
1,000. We weren't. The thing is,
Yeah.
we weren't able to get any higher than like Tournet level. So on
On the first day,
yeah, we just put up a lot of scratch marks between the Don de
I
l'Enfant
saw
and the
your
Tournet.
your track log. I was checking it out this morning. Look, you worked really hard to get out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
You
we
kind of
just
flan over to Plan Fay and got on the teeth and
yeah, we're just recycled, and trying to get higher than the Tournet, and just basically level with Tournet was more or less the best we were going to do. So
Yeah.
at a certain point, we're like, well, we're burning daylight. Let's huck it over the back and see how far we can get.
Yeah.
Which we promptly sunk out on the hills that
Yeah.
lead to
The
the
RVs.
RV.
yeah. And we quickly packed it up. We're very motivated. Hiked up.
And then launched later in the day.
Yeah, hiked up 500
Same day,
meters.
the first day.
Same day, first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
that was a 2 flight day. So we quickly hiked up 500 meters, ate some raspberries along the way,
Yep.
and
Nice.
then even we had this quick pack where we had just these basically
Yeah.
IKEA duffel bag,
Yeah.
IKEA duffel bag that we could throw everything in and just kind of strap it under the harness, like a really quick deploy. Like
Yeah.
those are like, let's not worry about packing everything up for a long flight. We just need to get off
Yeah.
ASAP.
But then there's always the risk, because if you know that it's just a short flight, then you don't put on all the long pants, the down pants, and everything. But then you find yourself at some altitude on what was supposed to be a short flight, and you're freezing up there. So it's
Right.
always yeah.
I think you had one of those, right, Gavin?
Oh, that ended my 2019 race. Yeah, that was brutal. It was so stable and so hot. I just never imagined I could get tall. And then when I did, I had my sleeves on. That was it. I was frozen. I couldn't think. I couldn't. Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, so we made it. We got into the RVs, but it was already pretty late, and established on the RVs, got to Col des RVs,
Yeah.
and landed. Basically, made one pass towards La Clusa, and it was sinky, and figured our best spot is Col
Yeah.
des RV for a landing. Nice big area up there.
Yeah. Great, because there was also a nice like hut lodge with ice cream there, restaurant type of
Oh,
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
So Martin's learning French, so I sent him over to get some ice cream while I
Yeah.
packed up the glider.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful chain.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so nice being in the ARV.
And then we
So
figured,
good first day.
we need to find a good east side spot, but let's make the most distance. So we hiked into the evening on the east side. There's a lot of like roads that access cabins all
Yeah.
along the east side there. So we found a little patch in the forest, camped out. Next morning we just continued hiking on the east side for quite a ways, and really wanted to make sure that it turned on. So we didn't. I don't think we launched on day two until it might have been as late as 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And
So
even
it's stable.
it's stable at that, but it's getting better. We're getting deep into the deeper mountains. Like we're not in that same stable that we were the day before, and it just took a little longer to get going. But by the end of the RV's chain, we're getting well over 3 grand, which made the crossing over
Yeah.
Salange.
Well, it was a good amount, but it still wasn't like to be safe enough because we weren't gaining that much height, and we knew
Mm.
that the other side was west facing, so it wouldn't be good lift there.
That's
So
right.
so we weren't able to get enough height to be sure. So we decided that we're just wasting time here, just fly over and okay, so we'll land and we'll hike up. And so we flew over. We're about to land, like setting up for landing.
No,
And
this is that's Verbier. You're thinking
that's
of
for me.
Verbier. No, no,
Okay, never mind. Wrong day.
wrong day.
Yeah, I noticed you. If I got this right, the second day from the ARV, you took the south route around Cham, correct?
Yeah, we
To
flew.
Mont Blanc.
Yeah, exactly. We stayed well south because once we crossed once you get above Salange, and then there's this like big rock fall that happened maybe 20 years
Yeah.
ago, but a very distinct face that had ripped off a long time ago. Got up above that, and then we were getting to 3,600 meters, almost 37, and you could cut over a wilderness and end up basically even east of the Brabant launch. So we basically cut. Yeah, exactly. We're north of Chamonix, and we were towards the east end of the valley by the time we were basically ready to cross it. So we crossed.
We crossed over Golden basically.
Yeah, we basically just a little bit south of Col de Balme is where we kind of left the Chamonix Valley, but we were getting to 4,000 meters. I mean, we're higher than Aguirre de Midi. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
It was just a spectacular day, and that type of top of the lift suddenly made things,
Yeah.
Much easier.
much easier, much easier. Yeah, even going through all that glaciated area on the far east end of the valley and south of Col de Balme, and
Yeah.
then it was interesting where we finally got low on terrain again. We got into a big flush because it was just trying to figure out the local valley winds. We got ourselves onto a little bit of a crosswind side of something that seemed like, oh, this is going to work, and there was nothing but flush. So we had to wrap around, and then we went further south than course line, but we were trying to get established because we did see good development. There's probably like a middle ridge, but we're not quite to Verbier yet.
Yeah, towards the end of the day, so about 4 or 5 maybe.
Yeah. So
you were kind of in the Orsières zone, I think, right?
Yeah. What we did, we ended up basically got to a spot, and you kind of reach where you just can't get any higher. You could sort of ridge soar, maintain there, but the little piece of terrain was a little too shallow to really get. It was just basically 6:30 in the afternoon, and we can maintain, but we can't get any higher. And we see this perfect cumulus above us on this mountain, probably another 2,000 meters above, but just there was no way to connect. It was a little too late in the day.
And style wise, Martin, are you guys trying to land high so you're not having to do a big heaver in the morning, or are you trying to stay up?
Yes. if possible, then definitely yes.
Yeah, because we have the
Okay, so
food.
you're trying to stick it in tall and
Yeah.
in a coal or something, and
'Cause-
I launched from the same place the next day. Is that the kind of the goal? Because I mean, when I looked at the track logs, they're pretty connected. It didn't look
Yeah.
like there was a ton of hiking in between each one. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some, but it looked like you were definitely kind of sticking with the high terrain.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a decision between do we land up here or do we hike up 1,000 meters tomorrow morning? So
Sure, that's an easy one.
Yeah, it was probably the laziest one on the hiking front for sure,
Yeah.
because the weather was so good. This end of the second day where we stuck it, we then had this this fat stream / river crossing that we were.
Well, it wasn't that much of the problem. It was that there were a ton of like willow bushes to try to put down to it.
Yeah, it was like once you land, you realize how difficult it is to progress on. Like,
Yeah.
because we spent the next 2 hours just trying to figure out how we're going to get across this the kind of big stream. Finally decided to go to a bridge, but
Yeah.
bushwhacking down the super steep kind of half muddy
Yeah.
hillside, pushing through bushes. It was just suddenly a whole different reality after being in the air for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Martin, your dad's kind of famously, he's a meteorologist, really good at weather, but he kind of famously pretty low tech in terms of, apps and phones and all that kind of thing,
Yep.
which I dig. But are you the navigator, or what are you
Yes.
guys using for? I imagine you are. So are you using Gaia, or what are you using for maps?
For maps, that year we still had like the Garmin Outdoor Active with like the little Garmin InReach.
Yep.
But then I think we just got Gaia this year, and I think that's gonna be.
We might start using Gaia, but
Yeah.
in the air we don't have a
We have
map.
an old, what is it, 2000?
It's not Nate's old.
E-Trex?
Yeah, it's from the 07
Are you
X-Alps. Nate
kidding
gave
me?
me
You're still using it?
Yeah. Yeah, the power button, the little thing, you have to stick a piece of gravel or stick in there to hit.
Yeah, to hit the power button. That's my
I
job.
can't believe you're still using that.
It was
That's
funny.
awesome.
The week before, I knew what was happening, so I left one of my nails to grow really long, and then like cut and had like a built-in little stick in my nail just to be able to hit it.
To hit the power button on the
Yeah.
old Garmin E-Trex. Yeah.
My nail looked really bad, but it worked.
Oh, like father, like son, then I
Yeah.
guess.
But
I figured you'd have all the tech all dialed, but you're still using the E-Trex. I love it.
Yeah. But Martin's got it on his he's got it on his leg, and purposefully basically I'm just asking him for that info. Also, we got 4 pieces of info on there: what time of day, glide ratio, elevation,
And
speed
and compass.
Yeah, and then the compass.
Yeah.
So it's got the compass setting. So there's I'll just call out for information as I need it.
Yeah.
And that Martin it's kind of part of the, I guess, the teaching. Like he's seeing, like I'm basically always vocalizing what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And getting that feedback information from the instrument. That's Martin giving me that vocally.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think once you guys do the Gaia, that'll make the ground stuff really nice too. Because it's just, there's so many trails in the Alps. It's it's pretty easy to just sniff around and find one too. But they're all in there. I used Outdoor Active for, I think, the 2015 race, and the problem with that was that it's open source. So if anybody's walked somewhere, it could be in there, and it's not necessarily a trail. So it got me pretty good and lost a few times just following what I thought was something and wasn't actually something. It was just somebody cruising through the woods.
Yeah, that screwed us over the first year. But then the Garmin one is also quite good, just in the app that you use with the InReach.
Oh yeah. That InReach app. Yeah. So that's really nice.
And we used, and that was also good with the trails and everything. And it also had like the built-in satellite if you want it, and it was downloadable. So
yeah, the
we also
EarthMate
used
app's
that.
great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Okay. So you guys get your I can't remember you made, is this the next day you made it all the way to Fiche?
So let's see. We are let's see.
So
this
we
is
just
end of day 2. So we just finished day 2, but now we've realized that even if we had to hike to Zermatt in 5 days, like even if the weather completely, which would still forecast was stellar, but even if it had turned bad, we were now finally within striking distance. So that was inspiring. And we just wanted to get it to a point to an east-facing launch to glide towards Verbier. We were thinking we'd take like a morning flight over, side hill it, and maybe hike up a little bit, and then use the west slopes when they turned on. So day 3 is basically kind of a traverse, kind of going back northward, getting into a position to launch a nice east face, and launched about 11:30.
Yeah, the east wasn't really working that day.
Yeah, it was surprising. We were able to maintain but not gain.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we
decided to just book it for the west face while you still had some height. Yeah. And then
Into Verbier. So you've left the Massif now and you're flying towards Verbier.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And
just south of Verbier, the town.
And so there was nothing on the west face. We were just getting ready to land, and then off the slightest beep beep, well, we just started passing. We were already set up to land, but then we started passing, and then we managed to go up 1,000 meters more, right?
A lot more, yeah. Because basically, there we were setting up to land on the same exact spot we'd side hilled the year prior.
Yeah, where the dream pigs were
on day 5.
Happiest pigs in the world were.
Exactly. Yeah, just around the area of the happiest pigs in the world. And then this time it was in very light lift. It was, tons of circles, but over the next half hour we gained the 1,300 meters that took us all afternoon to hike the year prior. So it was a trip down memory lane air. Yeah, and then we kept going, and then we got above the highest peaks would be
5, I think, was
4,000. Well, later in the day we got
later in the day. Yeah.
Here we're getting to about 4,000, and it's looking perfect. Light northwest wind.
So you must be above Ruinette or something, above the top lift there, looking down at Verbier on the west facing stuff. Wow, you're perfectly positioned.
And it was interesting to see how they're storing their snow in the
It was just
they plow it and they cover it with white tarps.
Exactly.
Tell
they're
that
doing
it was
that all over
after
the Alps
the
now.
Ukraine war. They knew that electricity was going to be expensive the next winter
for snowmaking. Yeah,
so they were saving all their snow, which was a cool idea actually, because it saves a ton of energy.
And we saw that a lot of places along the way, where they would just pile up their snow, probably 20 meters high, 60 meters wide, and cover it with wide white tarps up as high on the ski slopes as they could.
Wow, crazy. So, I've run into that a couple times on the race now. Wow, that's an expensive tarp. These are huge tarps.
So this is day 3. We're now making, it's suddenly, textbook flying, and almost felt like cheating with such high top of lift. Going for the Matterhorn became a straight line deal. We're just
really
just basically finding thermals where they should be and making our way.
And good viz, you could see it right from leaving.
You could see it. Yeah, I could see it.
Magic. Holy smokes.
And there was other people too flying around. There's some solo gliders flying around, and we get to mountain just to the north of the Matterhorn, and we're feeling a bit of a north now. Like there was a bit of a north, maybe a little northwest in it. So we are drifting south with all the circles. So as we get around to this mountain, we topped off there. That was probably 4,400 meters.
Yeah,
pretty good before we decided to make the final glide onto the Matterhorn. Then we get there, and this is one of those discussion things where I thought we could maybe try to soar up it or try to spend some more time there.
And I was like, no, because I was looking down at the glaciers and thinking, well, if we suddenly get into a big bad sink, right, then we're going down. If we're landing on the glaciers, it looks like fine and smooth from the top, but in reality, down there's huge rocks, and you don't want to be landing on that.
And the crevasses. Yeah. I could see why they gave us a 5-kilometer radius in the X-Alps on the Matterhorn.
Yeah,
because it's deep in there. I mean, arriving at 4,000, you're already feeling a little bit on the low side.
Yeah.
So,
what time of day did you get to the Matterhorn?
Well, I think it was been like 3:30 or so. Yeah. It was pretty early on, and then we spent another almost 3 hours in the Zermatt area, just checking everything out, and actually made a decision at one point where we didn't have to land in Zermatt. I mean, that was our goal, but we obviously had made it. Suddenly, something we've been trying for, twice now for a week, some 50 hours, and we made it, which was just amazing. And
day 3, you're in.
Day 3, we're in, and we, there was this konditorei I promised Martin we would go to that had some just wonderful raspberry pastry. I remember from 2 of the X-Alps. So that was drawing us down to land, but also, top of lift was so high. A couple times we got back to 4,500. Wow. And at that point, we're thinking, well, we could skip the pastry and just continue on our flight. But with the combination of the
Yeah.
Zermatt Valley wind and the north wind aloft, every time we tried to punch out of that long, it's like an upside down Y that
Yeah.
trying to go towards Wisp. We would very quickly start, we'd get sometimes 2-to-1 glide. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's funny because
Wow.
you thermal up to what, 4,600,
Yeah.
right? And then you fly for a little bit and then it's 2-to-1 down. And then you try again and
Yeah.
again.
Recycled a few
Were you
times like
cold?
that.
Yeah, very cool.
It was cold. I bet it was
Yeah.
cold. Yeah, I mean that once you get up into that, I mean you're in the really high terrain. All
Yeah.
kinds of weird stuff can start happening with the weather. I mean, I imagine you're getting at 332. You're getting a pretty good pull up from Visp and what is it, Visp and Brig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're coming up the valley there. So you didn't try. You were trying to get across to the SAS, but you didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we a couple times trying to just exit, we realized, okay, it's not going to happen. And then part of it was also trying to figure out where are they landing, because I'd gone through Zermatt a few times in the X-Alps, but I never actually.
Oh, the tandem LZ is tiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's by there's this by the railroad track, basically.
Yeah.
There's
By
this
the
split.
train station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's their official tandem LZ, but that's the
It
place we
is.
saw the other paragliders landing. So we figured, okay, we got to land
Yeah.
there, and that was a fast one.
That was a fast one. Yeah.
Because it was already in the shade. It was 6 o'clock, and it was there was no valley wind at that
Yeah.
point. It backed off, and it was almost starting to turn catabatic. So
Yeah.
landed in there, looked for that Conditorei,
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
find it. They must have closed it over COVID or
Oh
something, because that
no.
particular one
Oh.
was not there. We
Yeah.
walked back and forth through Zermatt Village about 3
Yeah.
times looking for this place that I swore was there, but just wasn't.
Yeah.
And hiked out of town, found a nice place to
Sleep.
sleep.
Yeah. And then
The next morning,
yeah, we hiked a little bit up. Well, quite a bit up, and
1,000 meters
yeah.
up. Yeah, watch the tandems kind of come across
Yeah.
the valley onto our side.
I was gonna say, did you go to the launch that the tandems use? That kind of east facing
No.
at the top of the lift? Okay.
Yes, no. So we did see a lot of tandems come across onto our face. So they were launching something. They had a lift, which would have been on east of
Oh yeah,
Vermont.
I guess theirs is west, isn't it? And then they come across
They
to the
come
east,
across.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
so
Yeah,
that was a
right.
great indicator. We'd watch them come across and see if they were maintaining or not. And then I think it was about 12:30. We got to a good spot. We were 1,000 feet over Zermatt, about 2,800 meters.
Yeah.
Looks like the thermals were starting to turn on good. The east face has been facing it, all morning, and there was a solo guy who was climbing
Yeah.
out above us. So this was all the check marks were good that it was time to go.
Yeah.
And we still hadn't quite made the decision what next.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah, you'd reached goal.
we'd
Now
reached
what?
goal. Yeah. So what were the two options, Martin?
Well, one of them was to go back to Annecy, and the
Ah,
other one
well,
was
out and
to just
back.
keep on going east. But for right then, it was to get out of the Zermatt Valley.
Yeah.
Just go somewhere.
Yeah.
So just to to go north and get out, to get more
Yeah.
towards the big Rhone Valley, to see whether and as we were approaching the end, we would make that call. So it was beautiful. We thermaled right up, got a
Yeah.
bunch of great pictures with the Matterhorn, and there was no wind at all, which was awesome. We could basically go over saddles super low, just these glaciated saddles. And I even suggested a top landing on some high snow patch to Martin, which she said, well, there's no reason to do that right now.
Keep going, Dad.
just the thought of not being able to launch from there and being stuck
Sure.
up there with cliffs below was not really the most enticing factor.
That can be hard to, even after all these years, that can be kind of hard to gauge too. Things that look pretty good from the sky often aren't very good. So
Yeah.
you can get kind of stuck. Oh man, I wish I hadn't landed here.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a great day. I think that day there was a lot more pilots out and about, and sailplanes, and we basically crossed over just to the west of Wisp.
That was a nice warm up. Dipping from 4,000 down to 2,000. That was amazing.
Yeah, down to maybe 2,500, and then got up. And at that point, we decided that was just before crossing. We made the call. we're gonna keep going east. Like
Yeah.
we know what's between here and Annecy. We've spent like the last few years in this area. Let's go to some new terrain, especially for Martin, new terrain for Martin, and just continue east as far as possible. And crossed over I forgot the name of it. The longest glacier in Europe there.
Yeah.
Oh, the Aletsch.
Aletsch Glacier, yeah. Got some nice pictures over that. And at that point, it was starting to get a little ripe. There were some pretty big looking clouds. So, there was one we had to cross under it, but to avoid any kind of cloud suck, I decided to give it like 1,000 vertical below it. And then we started sinking out. We got onto the terrain, and to my surprise, we were getting an east wind. And when we were getting now probably 15 kilometers
coming out of the Grimsel.
Yeah, the Grimsel snake. Yeah, I forgot about the Grimsel snake. I remember hearing, and when you get that heat low over the Alps, it starts to draw in these north winds through, especially in the northern Alps. It'll draw in winds through pretty high passes and wherever it can. And so it overcame this, this massive valley wind gets overcome at that point, and you suddenly get a wind reversal there. So that forced us to what we tried to establish, tried to reestablish and get like above valley wind layers, but it couldn't, and landed there, hiked into Oberwald.
Yeah, Oberwald.
But it was nice. On the way, we got some ice cream and got a few groceries, and it was really interesting as we hiking through that valley, just seeing what the wind was doing there, like the way that as that Grimsel snake kind of spills and down into Oberwald, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
The direction would, suddenly change, gust really strong, and then be nothing for a while. So it was the more,
it's almost like a mini fern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, it just really dumps when the snake starts going. I mean, that's why it's so, people respect it so much, because it's just it is like a little localized fern effect, it seems like.
Yeah. And we were glad we were actually on the ground. I think had we tried to push more into that area, it just might have made landing even more funky. Even though the fields were really big and grassy, it was fine. We'd flown. That was I think that was the longest flight.
Yeah.
Not time wise, but longest distance wise. I think we made 70 kilometers that day. And now we're just finishing day 4. Ended up camping out in the woods just near Oberwald, and the next morning was kind of overcast.
Yeah, it was quite overcast, but we knew that we had to get over the Furka Pass.
And that was a long hike to get to the Furka Pass. There was a lot of blueberries along the way, which was nice.
Yep.
And got to the Furka Pass.
Did you fly it, or you hiked over it?
We hiked. We hiked.
That was
up and
long.
Got to the Furka Pass, and it would have been launchable. There was basically like an east wind at the pass, and that was a tough call because you could launch it, but I wasn't seeing any guarantee of getting up. It was a very shallow valley that kind of leads out of there. So if we'd launched it, we were looking at maybe, if we sunk out 300 meters, we just have another big hike up, which we'd been doing all morning. So we decided to traverse a bit and try looking for launches on the hillsides, and we burnt a lot of time doing that, and nothing was looking too ideal. And then we had the scariest moment, because I was going to say to Martin,
we decided to continue on the road.
So we're hiking the road. We're hiking the road, and I was telling Martin, I should have stated this way. I should have said, once you look to see if you're clear, we can cross the road. But I said I said it the wrong way. I said we can cross the road, and then I was about to say, once you look. So Martin heard,
stepped out.
You can cross the road, and there was a bicycle zipping down.
Ooh.
And he just he luckily did a quick avoidance maneuver and just Italian cursing like crazy.
You mean motorcycle or pedal bike?
A pedal bike.
A pedal bike.
Oh,
man,
it was downhill, cruising.
So
They were going fast
there, and it was. I mean, that was That could have gone terribly bad for
That
both
could have been
bicyclists.
bad.
That was probably the most dangerous moment of the whole trip.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's usually the case.
Yeah.
It's the ground stuff that gets you. Wow.
But we
Oh,
finally
man.
found a launch that made sense.
Yeah.
Now we traversed so long that now we had good elevation over the valley, and we were trying to get to Andermatt Pass
Yeah.
at least just to save ourselves a bit of hiking. And that was the shortest day. We flew only 45 minutes that day, but just shows how good it was.
Yeah, it was a good 45 minutes. I mean, we covered a good amount of distance.
We covered a good amount of distance, but it was basically when conditions. Speaking of kind of the limits, is ripe, turning towards rotten as far
Yeah.
as the sky. There's in the distance there were some big cunims pretty far off, and we got to Andermatt Pass, and even though lift wise we could have kept going, I said no, we need to get on the
Yeah.
ground. It's just we need to land
Yeah.
before this ODs. And set up for a really nice long grassy landing
Yeah.
approach. And I think that we hit a batch of sink behind us because suddenly what should have felt like would have been into a valley flow.
Yeah.
We had a tailwind. We just skimming
With
along
some
the grass.
really fast
really
lands.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just flared up onto this grassy patch and just tumbled
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. It's hard to coordinate four legs.
4 legs.
1, 2, 3, roll.
It was kind of.
Do you often just kind of skid in?
Yeah.
Or-
No, it was
Yeah.
skid and tumble kind of.
Yeah, it was
But it was
skid and
very
tumble.
soft grass. It was really nice
yeah, it was
grassy
nice,
spot.
But yeah.
And and then this
Were
was supposed to
the
be-
were the windmills churning?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were. There was
That always freaks me out in there. I don't. Andermatt's just one of those places where I mean,
Yeah.
you've got 4 huge passes right there. You've got the stuff coming up from Bellinzona, and you've got whatever that pass is going out to the north, out to Zurich, and it's just
Yeah.
it's a
kinda
complex
chaos
place.
in there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
it
Yeah,
really is.
but we're happy to
Lot
be on the
going on.
ground and took. There was a nice little stream there, and
Yeah.
really took our time. Right now, at
About
that point,
45 minutes. Yeah.
at least we took at least 45 minutes to pack up. There was really no big hurry,
Yeah.
big push, and we're seeing if it was going to start raining or not, and it looked like it wasn't. So we finally packed everything up.
Walked about 200 meters.
Maybe a kilometer.
Maybe a kilometer, but not much. Like we could still see a spot where we landed, and then it started coming down.
Yeah, it started raining, so we
Yeah.
quickly set up
Oh.
tent, and so we could have just set up tent where we landed. That would have been the
Yeah.
most practical thing. But
Right.
after all that packing up, then we just
Yeah.
had to unpack it all real quick. And then we were watching the out in windy, you can see the radar returns. I mean, we had some really big storms pass right over us.
Through the night, yeah.
Through the night.
The tent surrounded it really well. Well, I slept through it, so it was all theoretical for me.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah.
Fantastic.
Quick side.
And you have 2 bags, 2 sleeping bags?
Nope, no sleeping bags, just the glider.
Just the glider.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We have these 2
okay.
super light thermarest pads. That was after the first year where we
Yeah.
didn't bring any.
There's 3/4 length or.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
3/4 length, just air thermarests, like they're
Yeah.
less than 200 grams each.
Yeah.
But
Right.
and then the tandem is our blanket. So we basically have the tandem. I fold old school half. So then basically when you unroll it a little bit, you get everybody get each one of us has half a there's a bit of
Half a
tandem
wing.
underneath us,
Yeah.
and then we get half a wing to work with for temperature control.
Yeah.
Jeez, and you can sleep, Honza? I'd never.
You can
sleep
sleep
that
through
way. That
it.
was-
Your feet get tangled in the lines.
Yeah, you feel like you're
Yeah.
feel like you're in a fishing net.
Get
Yeah.
strangled all night. Well, and wings make so much noise when you move too. I
Oh,
move
yeah,
around
and
too
with the
much. I would
mattresses,
drive
that's-
everybody
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, you do have to get tired. The first nights are kind of, but
Yeah.
ends up
Melatonin. Yeah.
You can take some melatonin.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, a little sleep aid.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
the
so
next
you're-
morning it's-
you're
so
well-
now
you're
we're
in Andermatt.
Day 6 now.
Yep.
Yeah, we wake up day 6. It's still a little rainy, so there's no
Yeah.
hurry to get out. And we're in cloud. We're basically in cloud and a little drizzly.
Yeah.
But the first good break, we pack up, hike just to the pass itself.
Yeah. There was like some restaurants and some stuff. So we got an
got
ice cream. And I served as a travel agent, figuring out all of our bus options back.
Yes, because now we know we're on day 6, day 7, it's done. So the morning of day 8, Martin figures, well,
Yeah.
we're definitely going to get to Chur. So he got us a bus on Flixbus back from Chur to Prague.
Yeah, but it was a bet trying to figure out where we're gonna get to or from, especially in the days
Yeah.
prior. I was also looking at it, and for even a minute, I was considering what if we take the bus from, it starts with a W, the capital of Luxembourg.
Oh,
Just
Uh
so I
huh.
was thinking, what's the big city between her and one of the previous cities? So, yeah,
so
Right.
we had a ticket. We had a bus ticket for, the morning of day 8.
yeah,
So we knew I
From
had to finish
Core.
by day 7, and
yeah,
so we knew should, all things considered, we should be able to get to Core, but we at that point we're deciding our goal is
yeah,
Davos. Davos looked like a really cool goal, and I think we
yeah,
spoke,
Mm.
and you said take a swim in the lake, and it's funny in the X-Alps I completely even I spaced. I don't remember the lake, but there's definitely a nice big lake there.
yeah. So we landed right.
No,
Hmm.
but
No,
we're not
sorry,
there yet.
sorry.
We're not there yet. So we're morning of day 5, getting, the kind of the weather's overcast. We're getting certain logistics taken care of.
Yeah,
Martin's really good about getting all, we do have power banks with us, but whenever we get to any place where there is a place to plug in, we'll just
yeah,
charge up all power banks and all
yeah.
in reaches. And
And we also have solar panels and stuff.
yeah,
So
we did have a
Mm.
solar
like,
panel.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
And then some ice cream, and then it started to break up, and we basically hiked to found a good launch, and that day was really nice and easy. Once we got going around 2 o'clock,
yeah,
it was just nice textbook flying, kind of trip down memory lane from many X Alps ago. Um, and really, that was a really nice, not super challenging, but just beautiful
yeah,
flying. And around 4:30, I start to notice a lower cloud coming over some of the passes to the north. And they're pretty high passes. They're passes that are like 2,600 meters. And that, and remembering, from the 2 days prior, the Grimsel Snake and the whole experiences of in the X Alps where I've been on perfect you know, southwest facing slopes in the late afternoon and been flushed completely all the way down to the valley, I realized,
Mm.
okay, it's starting to come in, and we need to. Our best bet is to top land
yeah,
high, which
Yeah.
which we did. We landed about 2,300 meters, and it was one of those hot days too. It would
yeah,
have been really hot down in the valley, and
yeah,
um, even though it felt like we were landing early, I think
yeah.
it was a good
It was
move.
a good move. Yeah,
So you're not down to Core yet. You're just flying down the Rhine.
No, we're about halfway. Realistically, we're halfway, maybe a little past halfway between Andermatt Pass and Chur, and
Okay.
it's only 4:30. But I decided to pull
It didn't seem
this
right.
top hill landing, um, and basically I think it was a smart move because as we hiked, then we hiked a little bit north to find a camp spot, and we start to hit that wind towards afternoon, and it
yeah,
was pretty strong. There was a big, it was a big flush. So
yeah,
we we side hilled it before that got to our area, but it would have affected. I think even the next crossing,
yeah.
everything's really shallow in there, and we would have risked being flushed in there. So it was a good move to stay high, and we found this really beautiful place to camp out, and
Yeah,
found all these bullets that were, probably a good, probably fifth, maybe maybe
big.
10 centimeters
Yeah,
tall and maybe 2 centimeters wide, and they were rusty, and they must have
Hmm.
the Swiss Army must have had a lot of practice there. And
yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, I mean,
Well, and Core has famously windy. Yeah, that place gets crazy strong valley winds. I've had some beautiful flights down the Rhine to then just suddenly be, whoa, what is going on here? But it can be, you want to be high.
yeah, it's one of those arteries that feeds it, and
yeah,
we knew that
Big
that
artery.
the next day we would want to be crossing core as high as possible.
yeah.
So the next morning, let's see. So we wake up in this beautiful place, but it's not a launchable place. So we had a bit of hiking around
Yeah.
to do. Um, and we got to a place, we're scoping out launch. Want to tell them that funny story?
Oh yeah. We're scoping out launch and my dad goes to go to the bathroom and look at the wind conditions. And while taking the number two, his phone falls into his
I dropped my phone in my
Oh,
ship bag.
dude.
It was the worst.
What? Oh,
So,
what a crusher.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a cleanup
Yeah.
to get my phone.
Oh man, man. Maybe we should leave this behind. Oh man,
Just
brutal,
about.
bud.
Yeah.
But finally get to a good launch, even though we probably could have launched a little earlier. But once again, we're being a little conservative. Don't want to lose that height. Don't want to lose the
Yeah.
day. It's our last day, and we've got kind of one shot at Davos.
Yeah.
And so we get flying, and it is a windier day. It's a bit of a southwest, which is fine because it's crossing. We're trying to go east, so we're not.
You got a little bit of tailwind.
Yeah, a little bit of tailwind, but this whole terrain now, this last bit of as you're getting close to Hor, it's shallower and with very steep terrain only at the crest. So often we'd be stuck running to ridge soar the crest, and then we would venture out, and try to find thermals, and then sometimes run back to actually ridge soar back up on the steep crest mountains. So
it was not easy flying. It was, yeah.
No, it was not easy flying, especially that part to Hor was not easy because the crest was pretty deep in on relatively shallow slope.
Yeah.
With now some wind in the picture, so it definitely, I think, from tactics, and it was the most challenging
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But once we finally approached the mountain before Hor, we were able to top out and just touch Cloudbase at 3,300 meters, and that was great. Every meter counted because we crossed Hor onto some steep west-facing cliffs, but those were actually not quite working yet. So it made for a tough decision there. Do you sink out into the Hor Valley, or do you jump over the back and hope to frisbee along into the that valley that leads to the pass that'll go into Davos? And we went for it, and there was could have found places. Certainly there was places to land, but it would have been tight if you had to. And luckily
also getting out of there with public transportation wouldn't have been. I mean, there probably would have been buses, but it wasn't that big.
Yeah, I think it was that initial part after crossing Hor, deciding to jump over the back, frisbeeing along. That was a little bit of the last of the what I would call real challenging parts. And then we finally got established in there, and then it was basically like clockwork again, making our way towards towards Davos, and got to Davos.
Isn't that beautiful terrain there?
Yeah,
it is just magnificent. It's so amazing. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, everywhere you've been has been amazing, from Annecy all the way. But the Rhine and the huge terrain around Fiche and the Alex Glacier and the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc and everything else. But that green, it's just surreal. That from Hor to Davos is one of my favorite legs. It's just gorgeous in there.
Yeah,
so cool.
And it was interesting to fly it in this direction because I've flown it twice the other way in various X-Alps, but this time flying it back up. And as we arrived in Davos and got to the lake, to the north of us was already a pretty good ripe looking, not quite cunim yet, but it was definitely a big cumulus congestus forming. And so we basically ended up doing a spiral dive down to the lake. We weren't sure whether you're allowed to land by the lake or not, but we decided, well, land by the it's a big open grassy area, and pack it up. And
so it was a great spiral down, and then we packed up, jumped in the lake.
Martin figured out a good place to get some kebabs. Right?
There's a train station right there. Exactly. You guys nailed it. It's just perfect.
Yeah, we camped out one more night. We got our train tickets for the next morning because we had the bus out of Hor around 10 o'clock. So we just hiked up into the forest. One more rainy night.
One more rainy night.
In the forest. But like mission accomplished and then some. I mean, more than doubled the. It was 120.
I mean, that's a dream mission. It really is. I mean, that is the vol-biv in the Alps. And you pulled it off in a tandem. Amazing.
Yeah, it ended up being even via that turn point right around the 300K mark. And the original goal was only 120K, which seems so tough. So this was this was a dream to make it this far. Yeah, and see all the southern Swiss Alps.
Definitely,
So what do you, I mean, how does it work now? You've had the 3 attempts, you made it. What do you start in Davos next and just keep going, or
Yep.
I can't wait to hear what the next one
Yeah,
is.
So we decided to make Davos the start. We could have actually, by the way our rules go, we could have chosen a completely random start.
Yeah.
And a
Totally new thing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
with Martin, tell them what the
So
goal
we
is.
decided to go from Davos, where we finished this time, to Corvara, where we finished the goal before. And
To where? What was the
Corvara
second?
Corvara, it's in the Dolomites.
So it's the big
Ah,
one.
so you're going to jump the spine.
Yeah, so we got
Yeah.
150K
North
one.
to
So as far as
south.
goal, like it's less distance than what we just had this summer, but as far as
But that's
a
big.
big goal, it's at least
Yeah.
150K away. And it'll, and I know there's some parks the Swiss get kind of upset about.
Yeah.
I remember through some of the X-Alps we
still need to look at Google Earth for that one
need to,
and
yeah,
figure out.
figure out where.
Yeah, there is some funky stuff. I mean, you could go straight south to St. Moritz, and remember Honza,
Mhm.
we've went through there in 2015, or you probably, more course line would be more down towards Murano, I guess, right? And but
I
yeah,
think
you got
towards
to go
Murano
up and
would be
over the
more
big
course
stuff.
line, yeah, but you might hit some of those parks, so we just have to.
You're gonna hit the Swiss National Park, which they definitely don't want you to land in. Yeah, for sure. But that's where it gets tricky. Is right around Aaron's place. There's a lot of the Swiss parks. There's the big one, the big national park, and but you can fly over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just can't land in it.
I remember when my supporters, it was I think Luis and Jesse in the 2013, and they were supporting, and one of the rangers was telling him that flying over his national parks is like walking naked in front of the Pope. He was very adamant about his
Yeah.
park. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're very particular about that,
And I
for
mean, and
sure.
we
But
are too, the Gavin. It's not just the
yeah,
Swiss. I mean,
no, no, no.
if you were to
It's
fly
yeah.
in and out of Yosemite, I bet you'd stir the hornet's nest. I bet,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about the flying over there too. I mean, you're not going to get away with it. I mean, there's a lot of people. Somebody's going to see you, and that's yeah. And we have to respect their rules too. But that's there's a route through
Yeah.
there that you can figure out that'll be pretty spectacular. What a neat end! And are you going next month again? Are you going in June?
no, this is gonna
It's gonna be later. It's
late July.
yeah, late July.
Late
Yeah,
July.
like mid to late July is when we'll be
Well,
there.
that should be fine. I mean, that should work because I would have said that'd be pretty hard to do what you just did because getting out of Annecy that late's pretty tough. But you'll be in the high terrain, and that should work pretty well. Huh? And then you're getting to the Dolomites when it's
Yeah.
starting to be nice.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that we get some good weather. I mean, it's
Yep.
the obviously, as all of these things go, it's the weather that plays a role. I mean,
Yeah.
looking back at it, we were just looking at the track logs that we emailed you, and I think it's 90% was covered by air. We had
Yeah.
a total of 26 hours over that week, and our shortest flight was 45 minutes. Our longest was 6.5 hours. So it's just we
Yeah.
put a lot of airtime in.
That's amazing. 6.5. And Martin, do you ever get air sick?
Nope. Luckily not.
Nothing.
No.
That's amazing. 6.5 hours. Oh man, with Dad in the sky. Okay, so for both of you, since 2008 to now, best flight.
Gotta be the one getting into Zermatt.
Really?
Yeah.
Just flying from Runette over those huge tall peaks and posting up on the Matterhorn. Yeah, that's hard to beat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I
Jeez.
would agree, and I would put number two as the second year when we made it almost to Corvara. There was a
Yeah.
50K flight that
Yeah.
was just a beautiful, beautiful flight. We'd had 2 days of rain, so we actually did.
Yeah.
We flew day one out of Selamzi going west, and then we had 2 days of hiking, and then we had just a beautiful 50K flight that took us,
Yeah.
right into the Dolomites, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Mm. You mentioned, Martin, you mentioned at one point you guys kind of had this rule, the three attempts rule and that kind of thing. Are there other rules? Are there guidelines? Are there philosophy? Is there a philosophy of the Sky Camp Honza Martin team that kind of guides the principles?
I'd say not really.
Well, self-support.
Yeah, self-support. The only other
Self-support.
rule is
Yeah.
also that we can't we can't use any public transportation or any like non paraglider or foot transportation after we get up onto the starting spot.
Yeah, so you can whatever the initial start launch, you can take bus,
Whatever.
taxi, whatever to get to the initial start. But once we've begun our mission,
Yeah.
No gondolas, no trams,
Nothing.
no cars,
Yeah.
no taxis, no scooters.
No.
You're
Yeah.
on foot or you're flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Do you think Honza, as the years go by, you start dealing with Tomas, can you see this changing in any way? Would it be, I remember when I did the thing with Will, his style was that we had to connect the line. In other words, you couldn't fill gaps with walking. You could walk, but you had to basically, if you were taking off 20K down, you had to fly back and tag where you'd left off and then keep going. You had to have a kind of a continuous track log. Do you guys talk about stuff like that, or is it just self-support? That's clean enough.
I think self-support, and I think you could tell by that just having to go back, because if you get a span of rainy days, then it's better just not to move.
But yeah,
Yep.
it would almost incentivize not moving. So I think just getting there. I think part of it is just whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get there.
Yeah.
Or attempt to get there. But obviously, with terrible weather, you quickly realize
Can't do it.
how convoluted the Alps are. What seems like straight line distance to be not so big. It
Yeah.
gets really hard to make progress if you're just stuck on
Yeah.
foot.
Honza, I think I asked you about this in the last one, but has this, in a sense, replaced what you've lost with the X-Alps, or is it even better because you've got this incredible connection where you're doing something with your son? I'm asking because I'm getting so fired up to do this with Fallon. It just seems like such a great way to spend time with your kid.
Yeah, no, it's just a great way to connect without any of
Yeah.
life's normal worries or chores or anything like that. Just to be on a mission where you're just trying to make distance towards the goal and doing it by your own rules. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it is apples and oranges. I mean, there's something about the race of the X-Alps and the sheer, just like the live tracking and there's something about the X-Alps and the sheer tiredness and the mindset. You don't quite reach that, and it's good. You wouldn't want to be that tired in this
No.
in this adventure. You need
Right.
all the focus and the rest you can get. But I do remember even in the X-Alps thinking, wow, this would be great places to return to and just like check it out in a slightly less hectic fashion. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
in some ways, this is it. I mean, the rules are really simple. You don't have to show up for some prologue. You don't have to. You're not satisfying any sponsor. You just you keep the rules as simple as possible. I think one other rule I would mention is you don't move forward at any cost. I mean, there was a point where we thought, okay, on the second or third one, we could just hike the Sion Valley and just make distance,
Yeah.
and then just making endless distance down the road loses
pointless.
yeah, becomes pointless. You're there to be in the mountains, so that's why we're trying to land high whenever possible or keep
Yeah.
it on the mountain routes. But it
That's
does.
smart.
Yeah, I think it definitely fills the gap, and it's not the same, but it's in many ways just as good.
Yeah.
Just a different kind of just as
Definitely.
good. Yeah. And with Thomas, it's going to be a different, we'll see how his patience is, because we've had him on some flights, after about half an hour at this age, he's ready to land. I mean, he's excited to get
Sure.
airborne, but then he's also happy to land. So a lot of things, we're talking with Martin, a lot of things have to come together to
Yeah.
make these kind of trips. I mean, the other parent, usually mom, I guess, would have to agree. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
That's a big
Yeah,
one.
that it's not going to even, you don't consider BCD before that. If that one doesn't work
Right.
Yeah.
There's no getting around A.
Yeah.
then B is probably the dad, or could be the mom or whatever. It has to be a good enough pilot to confidently and safely pull it off. The kid has to be wanting and willing and excited about doing it, and they also cannot get airsick. So
Yeah.
there's at least 4 things right there
Yeah, they got to
that
come
got to
together.
come together.
Hansa, I'm asking this for personal reason. I don't know if this would be totally interesting to everybody listening, but maybe to some. But as I'm thinking about this with Fallon, I've obviously got a lot of pilot experience and solo experience and X-Alps and that kind of thing, but I've never been a tandem pilot. Would that worry you? I mean, is this something I can very easily figure out, or should I go become I've got tandem gear. I have flown people tandem, but I'm not a tandem pilot. I never have been. I don't have, you've got thousands of hours in tandems and you did all those years of tandems. Is that necessary?
I wouldn't actually, I think the sheer piloting experience is more important than the tandem experience. Cause in this, you'll be side hill landing, you'll be, launch, you're not doing the, if
I'm
you're,
not doing the
if you're
typical
working as a
tandem stuff.
professional tandem pilot, you're often using the same launch and landing more or less. You're not taking people in deep. You're not side hill landing somewhere with people. So, uh, I think your idea of getting an extra large glider is probably a lot better than getting a full blown tandem, especially in the early
Mm-hmm.
years. I would recommend that just to be
Mm-hmm.
like right in the proper weight range, and
Sure. Okay.
then yeah, then obviously it's all about just respecting that you're now with your daughter and giving yourself huge margins. But yeah, I honestly I don't think it's so much the tandem pilot thing. I think it's the X-Alps pilot that's going to play a much bigger role in this. The
Okay.
pilot that feels
Cool.
comfortable, side hill landing a lot of places, and just at that point you just try to pick your days when it's wind,
Finding good days.
avoid wind as much as
Yeah.
possible initially,
Right.
and the
Sure.
rest will fall into place.
And I think you've also
Guys, oh, go ahead, Martin.
and I think you've also got to put into consideration that you're driving a big bus, not a sports car, and
Yeah.
what
Very
that
different.
entails. Yeah.
Very, very different weapon, aren't you? Maybe weapon's not a very good choice, but I like to think of these wings as sharp blades, and this is a very dull blade with a tandem for sure.
Yeah.
But guys, thanks so much. I've just been smiling ear to ear for the last hour and a half. I appreciate it. Always so fun to hear about these adventures. Hans, I appreciate the pictures that you send me when you guys are doing this and the stoke. And it's just, it's pure joy to watch how much joy you are both having doing this. So have a great adventure this summer. We'll be following along, and maybe we could even put a link up to your shared page or something so other people can watch and send you messages and stuff. That'd be a lot of fun. But good luck from Davos to the Dolomites. That sounds terrific.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to share our story again. And it's amazing. You're fast approaching number 200 on your podcast, right?
I know. Actually, this is going to be real close to 200 because we've got a couple logged here in front of you. So we're going to be right on the cusp
Yeah.
when this goes live. But yeah, I can't believe it, right? Unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
been going on for a while now. As long as you guys have been doing these trips, actually.
Yeah.
Much, yeah. Well, thanks again, Gavin. It's been
Thank
great, and lots of luck as you start doing this with Fallon. I hope she enjoys it, and
Me too.
even I would start with as simple as an overnighter somewhere, just super chill.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's how we'll start it. We got a great place to do that here in our backyard.
Yeah,
So
I'm
Yeah.
hoping
we'll start there and come to the Alps, and maybe we'll glom onto you guys one of these days. That'd be fun.
Yeah, one of these years we'll try to make some time to get back out to Sun Valley. It's been a while, so
please do.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
do. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Gavin.
Yeah. Bye.
If you find the Cloudbase Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So, for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasemayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/Cloudbase Mayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do, and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloudbase Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.